Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's B.E.S.T standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go, I see you. And let's dive into today's B.E.S.T standard. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah McCarthy and I am super excited that you are taking time out of your busy schedule to join me as we break down the following standard. Okay, today's standard is MA.5.AR.2.4, and this standard says, given a mathematical or real-world context, write an equation that has an equal sign involving any of the four operations, which are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, to determine the unknown whole number with the unknown in any position. So for instance, here's an example. If you are given the equation 250 minus the product of 5 times s, and s would be the unknown, that equals 15. This could be used to represent that 5 sheets of paper are given to S students, to a certain number of students, from a pack of paper containing 250 sheets with 15 sheets left over. So in this case, if you were to solve this problem, you would be trying to figure out how many students there are, right? By the way, this resource that I'm using and marking up all over is not something that I created. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public. They make it available to everybody, and I'm just showing you how I take the breakdown that they provide in order to create the resources that are strategically aligned to the B.E.S.T standards, and you're taking on the B.E.S.T membership. Okay, so what else popped out at me? Here in the clarifications it says we'll be using unknown letters recognized as a variable. And usually with those variables, we try to make it whatever it is that we're trying to figure out. So in the example, the variable was S, and S stood for students. Also, the problem can include the unknown and different operations on either side of the equation. So it can show up on the left or the right. Some of the related benchmarks that might apply and either help us in this standard or help us in future standards would be 2.1 for the NSO standard, which is our multiplication standard. 2.2 is our division standard with whole numbers. 5.AR.1.1 is our solving multi-step problems, which definitely comes into play here. We're kind of doing the opposite, where we are given the equation, or where students are given the equation and have to generate the word problem for that. And in 5th grade, also 3.1, the AR strand has patterns as rules. So creating a rule as an expression when given a pattern. So yeah, over here, equal sign. Of course, that is right here. An equation represents both sides of the equal sign, right? The values on both sides. And then a whole number is like this, like 15. Really, all of those numbers up there are whole numbers. Where are they coming from? Well, in 4th grade, they had to write multiplication or division equations with an unknown. So they were given a problem, a context, and from that they had to create a multiplication or division equation. And then in 6th grade, they will be generating equivalent algebraic expressions and working on equations and inequalities. So all of this is important because it's going to continue on into those middle school years. For the purpose and instructional strategies section, it says that the purpose is for students to write equations that determine the unknown whole number from a mathematical or real-world context. In 4th grade, they've had some practice, but now in 5th grade, they're not limited to 12, the factor of 12. And equations may use parentheses, implying that students might have to use the order of operations to solve, as we saw in that example. Here I just wrote 100% yes to the fact that instructional emphasis should be placed on students' comprehension of the context to translate equations more easily. When I was a student, I was a quantity grabber. I would see quantity, I would see numbers and problems, and I would just take them and start performing operations with them, when really I totally missed out on the comprehension of the problem. That is what this standard is trying to help with, to make sure students are exposed to all kinds of problems where they have to comprehend what's going on. And a way to help with this is to take a word problem with the quantities covered. Cover them up. This will allow students to comprehend what the problem is trying to find, and allow students to think deeper about which operations will be required to do so. I said I totally recommend doing that. And once a student understands and can predict an equation, then we can reveal the numerical information. Students should be able to justify how their equations match the situation. So being able to walk through and say, okay, for the example that they provided, 250 represents the pack of paper, and then there are S students who are each given so many pieces of paper. That's what they mean there. Students should then be able to substitute their solution for the letter symbol that they used and use the order of operations to check the equation and make sure that it's true. So they have a scenario, they create an equation there using an unknown, then they should be able to solve for that unknown. If they say that S equals 6, plug, I don't even know what S equaled in that equation, but if S equals 6, plug 6 in for S and see if that works and if the equation is balanced. When students have trouble comprehending context, they need to just grab numbers. That's what I was saying that I used to do too. They grab numbers from a given context and begin computing without justifying their arguments. That was so me as a student, and now I'm on a mission to make sure that students do not do that. All right, here's an example of an instructional task that you can take a look at. Lots and lots of words. And here's an example of a situation. And then they provide several equations, and students will have to match that up. But I think a lot of the emphasis on this should be that students are creating the equation. That way when they get to multiple choice questions like that, they've already started to create the equation in their mind, and they're just figuring out which one makes sense. Okay? All right, with that said, let's go and see what you have access to in your membership. So here we are on the website, McCarthy Math Academy. You're going to click Members, enter here. Click on Taking on the B.E.S.T. Select your grade level. You might have to log in there again. I was already logged in. We're on the AR strand. Scrolling down to right here, 2.4, equations based on real world problems. Click that. And we have an example here, okay? So you can watch this video and students can follow along in this guide, right? We're going to look at this equation right here, we're going to look at this scenario, create an equation based on the scenario, use M to represent the amount of money that Patrick earns, and then justify how your equation is correct by checking your solution for M. So we're breaking down this problem here. But after that, your students are definitely going to need more practice. So if you have the silver plan, you have access to more practice problems. If you click on there, printables, this was your bronze video lesson. We know because of the icon. But if you scroll down, we have another problem, very similar to what we did in the lesson, just a different scenario. 2 practice problems. Then we have a math mission where now we're switching it around. We're creating the real world problem based on the equation and solving for n. Finally, you have another video lesson, a math misconception mystery with the silver plan. You just click play and I will guide your students through the entire process. First, they will solve this on their own. Then they will watch as 4 other characters read that same scenario, create an equation, and 3 of those characters are going to make mistakes Only one of them is correct. And yes, those characters are me dressed up in silly costumes. So it's a lot of fun, these episodes. After they watch how every character has solved the problem, they'll complete this detective report. So those are super fun. You also have your answer keys right there. And if you have the gold plan, you have even more. You have everything. You have, in addition to the bronze and the silver resources, you also have a mini assessment. Here's an equation. Which scenario matches that? Here's a scenario. Write an equation. What does B represent? Here's a scenario. Look at these variety of equations. So it's a multi-select problem, and then another one. So your mini assessments are typically 4 to 5 problems. This one was pretty heavy with the word problem, so it's only 4. Your mini assessment answer key is right here. And of course, this is where your breaking down the best video is. As a gold member, you do have the ad-free perk of being able to watch these episodes without ads, and right there with all of your other resources. Now, these breaking down the best videos are also available on YouTube. It's just nice to have it right there. However, most people select the gold option because they want access to McCarthy Math 155, which has the 155 grade level videos. So if you have the gold plan, you can click there. Just keep in mind that this program is a daily math intervention that was aligned to the Common Core standards. However, there are a lot of awesome resources that will help you and support you with the B.E.S.T standards. You just have to make sure you understand your standards to know. Okay, so this one was mostly about creating equations. So if your students need help here, I would suggest going into the multiplication and division sections. Maybe even operations with decimals and fractions, and sticking with these close reading word problems that are at the end. Let me show you. I'm gonna go into multiplication. If you scroll all the way down, see if you have students that are struggling with multiplication, you have so many video lessons here to help you. All right, so right down here, Day 9 and Day 10 for this unit are which operation, where they have a lot of video lessons and just pulling apart, really taking time to explain why it is multiplication, why we choose, why the operation involved would be division, why it would be addition. All of these which operation videos go into detail with that. So it's a great way to support your students. Okay. All right, y'all, I think that is it. So I hope that breaking down today's standard was helpful for you, that you have a good grip on what's entailed with this standard, and that you understand what resources you have access to with whatever membership that you have for taking on the B.E.S.T. So with that, let me remind you that what you do with your life every day, it really does matter. Thank you for showing up for your students, for leading them, for showing them what your best looks like so they can step into the best version of themselves. And also, thank you for inviting me into your educational space. I really do appreciate it. I do not take it lightly, and I know that you're busy, so I'm gonna let you go. But I can't wait to see you on the next episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, all right? Bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now, bye.